Texas Tech beats TCU 35-28 to regain ownership of the saddle. Baron Morton, he's shined in his return, and Tahj Brooks in his historic season, well, it's got him in the record books for the Red Raiders as well. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. We're giving you the latest game previews. We're breaking down the games as soon as they're over and much, much more. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. And hey, while you're at it, you might as well like the video as well. If you're excited about Texas Tech football getting back on track, it may not have been the most pretty win in some ways, but the Red Raiders do get to 4-5 on the season and keep their bowl eligibility hopes alive, albeit maybe slim considering the schedule. But let's jump into the stats in this one and talk about the star players. And you got to start with Baron Morton. Listen, you didn't know what you were going to get, right? They were talking about it on the broadcast. He has not thrown the football in practice since the week of West Virginia. And now you're asking him to come out, albeit after a bye week where he was ramping up and everything like that in practice, and really shine. And that's exactly what he did, right? 282 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He ran one in. And before we get too much into anything else offensively, I've been hard on Zach Kittleys. I thought this was his most balanced game and arguably his second best called game of the entire season, outside of maybe that Baylor game where they just absolutely destroyed the Bears in Waco, right? But when you look at what Zach Kittleys did well, he implemented quite a few motions to create a little bit bigger windows for Baron Morton to run through. I thought he did a good job early on in terms of getting bigger running lanes for Tahj Brooks. Now, got to give a little bit of credit to TCU. They really stopped Tahj Brooks from breaking out in terms of the second half outside of 1 or 2 runs. But from a Zach Kittleys standpoint, I was actually impressed with what he did. And you saw it with Baron Morton. And to be fair to Zach Kittleys, it helps that you have a guy that should be in this role. And it's not a knock on Jake Strong. He's a true freshman thrown into a difficult situation. What do you expect him to do in a way, right? And Zach Kittleys made a couple of adjustments for Jake Strong. But again, freshmen are going to freshmen. They're going to make mistakes. You have your starting quarterback back in there and Baron Morton, and it showed. And I thought they did a phenomenal job, right? Again, a stat that really stood out to me in this one for Baron Morton, and you can go check this out over on TexasTech.com. He made 21 throws to the left side of the field. Doesn't matter where it is. And for those that don't know, there's 4 levels of the field: behind the line of scrimmage, then 1 to 5 yards, 9 to 14, or 5 to 14, and then 15 plus, right? Baron Morton completed 85.7% of his passes. He went 18 for 21 when he was throwing to the left side. And you see it at the bottom of the screen. A big reason why is Coy Eakin. Coy Eakin is his go-to receiver, him and Miles Price. And I was told in the offseason by a coach before Coy Eakin unfortunately had that injury that really dampened the start of his season, that Coy Eakin was going to be one of the 2 best wide receivers on this team. And he's proven that when he's on the field and he has a starting quarterback out there and not, Jake Strong, who was thrown into that difficult situation, as I mentioned. So Coy Eakin's a guy that really stood out to me. He had 8 catches for 78 yards on 8 targets. You can't get much better than that. Now, I will say Coy probably is frustrated a little bit, probably thinks he could have had more yak, but 39 yards of yak, yards after the catch, pretty damn good if you ask me. Give me your one word to describe the Texas Tech offense before we talk about Tahj Brooks. Again, I thought this was a very well-balanced play-called game by Zach Kittleys, but I want to know from you guys your one-word reaction or one word to describe the Texas Tech offense against the Horned Frogs of TCU. All right, let's talk about Tahj Brooks because there was a lot of history here for the Red Raider running back. The second Red Raider to rush for 1,000 yards in a season since the year 2000. The only other to do it, DeAndre Washington, who I was talking with my buddy on Twitter. DeAndre Washington doesn't get enough credit for how good he was because he played with Patrick Mahomes, right? And rightfully so, Patrick Mahomes was great. DeAndre Washington was great too. So Tahj enters elite company on that front for the Red Raiders when it comes to the year 2000, 1,000-yard rushers for Texas Tech. Not only that, but Tahj Brooks officially enters the top 10 of the Texas Tech all-time rushing list, passing a GOAT, right? And I just had a Freudian slip there. Patching, that's because he passed Baron Batch, right? a guy that is one of the best to ever put on the scarlet and black, right? Tahj Brooks is having an historic season, obviously, with the 1,000 yards rushing, but also he's having an historic career. And you have to wonder at some points, and this is just a guessing game now, right? How high would Tahj be if he didn't have to split with SaRodorick, who looks to be within sights? Remember, Tahj Brooks and SaRodorick Thompson are very good friends. Does Tahj pass SaRodorick? He's got a chance at it. He'll need a little bit of help, but it could potentially happen. Now, as for the game against TCU, Tahj was doing Tahj things. So he had 31 carries, 146 yards rushing, and 1 TD. Listen, he's the focal point of this offense, and everybody knows it. You think TCU don't know it? You don't think any other Big 12 defensive coordinator don't know it? You don't think some random Pac-12 fan that's only seen 3 snaps from Texas Tech offensively don't know it? Everybody knows it, right? And they still can't stop this guy. He's averaging close to 5 yards a carry in this one, 4.7 to be exact. He was absolutely dominant behind an offensive line that did struggle at times, but I thought they were actually getting a substantial push, specifically in the first half, to really just dictate the line of scrimmage. I thought they were great tonight for the most part, outside of a few plays here and there. But this is the guy for you. You know that. And now I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I do have to question, when does this career high workload start to catch up? If it does to Tahj, I mean, he's built for this, right? No doubt about it. But you wonder with that, right? For me, I would love to see him in the 22 to 25 range. I admittedly used to say 18 to 22. That's obviously changed quite a bit. So 22 to 25, 31 carries. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I also understand from Zach Kittleys' point of view, hey, I got to give him the ball. But now maybe it changes a little bit with Behren Morton because, again, you were very well balanced. And you also have to wonder this. Does Tahj get 31 carries if Cameron Valdez doesn't get that personal foul where he kicked one of the TCU players early on, right? Does Cameron Valdez get more touches than he did in this game? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Texas Tech got the W. Now, on to the defense in this one. And again, one more time, like the video if you're excited about Texas Tech getting their 4th win of the year and potentially maybe starting another late season run. Remember last year what they did? They went 4-0 in the last 4 games of the season, including the bowl game. Maybe they get on a little bit of a run here if they're the Red Raiders and secure bowl eligibility yet again. But let's talk about the defense. First and foremost, they got to get better on 3rd down. They allowed TCU to go 10 for 18 on 3rd down, over 50%. That's simply not good enough. Now, I will say this from a positive standpoint on the defensive side. I like the blitz packages that Tim DeRuyter was throwing out there. Now, I know it's not going to show up in the stat sheet, but you can attribute the blitzes that Tim DeRuyter threw at Hoover, the quarterback for TCU, to the 2 interceptions that he threw to Rabbit. And by the way, Rabbit could have had like legitimately 4 picks tonight, right? One got called back because of a penalty, and he dropped another one. Technically, he dropped 2 more. He could have had 5, right? Not a joke. Probably 4 more realistic, though. And he obviously had the one to secure the win for Texas Tech. Overall, the pass rush didn't get home, as I mentioned, but I like the idea of what he did specifically because Texas Tech secondary, they had some moving pieces around, right? Now you got CJ Baskerville kind of playing that center fielder role. He led you in tackles in this one with 9. Now you got Tyler Owens kind of being that Swiss Army knife guy coming all around in terms of, is he on the left, right side? Is he rushing, dropping back into coverage, playing more of a linebacker hybrid safety role, whatever it may be, right? He was solid last night too for Texas Tech. He had 5 tackles as well as a tackle for loss in the backfield on just an absolutely abysmal TCU screen. Overall, the secondary just has to cut down on the miscommunications. I think they will. And really, I think Texas Tech is going to start getting home on some of these blitzes, right? Because you're going to start seeing a little more of these guys in terms of Dylan Spencer out there. You're going to see Miles Cole blitzing. You're going to see more of these guys in different spots, and the offense is not going to have this look on film because there's new guys out there, whether that's Joseph Adedire, so on and so forth, Quincy Ledet, whatever, right? That's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing in the last 3 games of the year, the last quarter of the year, right, for Texas Tech, in terms of, I think if Texas Tech is going to make a bowl game, they're going to have their pass rush, and I think the pass rush does eventually show up in 2 of these at least next 3 games. All right. You tell me, though, does Texas Tech make a bowl game this year? Simple Y for yes or in for no. again, you got to win 2 of the next 3, and it's not going to be easy against Kansas, UCF, and then you go down to Austin. You obviously go to Lawrence as well for that Kansas game. But, hey, this was a big-time win and a step in the right direction for Texas Tech as they got Behren Morton back at this one, for this one, I should say, as QB1, and he shined in his return. And Tahj Brooks makes history as he enters the Texas Tech all-time rushing list, the top 10. I should say, and becomes the second Red Raider to rush for 1,000 yards since the year 2000, joining DeAndre Washington. I am RC Maxfield, reminding you one more time, be sure to like and subscribe here to the Back to 12 podcast channel, the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube. We'll catch y'all next time, guys.